Happy Wealth Wednesday. So excited to be interviewing you, Lindsay. We got introduced through a mutual friend, Tara Fung, who's also been on this show. And she was just kind of sharing so much about what you've been building in the NFT space with CG Pantheon and Undressing Finance, and that you're actually still a student still at Seattle. So can't wait to dive in with you and share more about your story. If you wouldn't mind kicking us off with just a little bit of who you are, where you're calling in from, and then we can get started.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing with this whole space right now. As you mentioned, I'm Lindsay Rosenthal. I'm calling in from Seattle. And yes, I am almost finished with school, but with crypto and with this space, their age is just not a number. You can be old, you can be young, and there's always something you can bring to the space. So thanks for having me.
That couldn't be more true. And that's why we try to bring all people from all different walks of life into these interviews to kind of show that you really can't be what you can't see. And so it's always great to have some inspiration. And one of the first questions we ask is, do you remember what your first ever investment was, whether it's in traditional stuff or the crypto world or both, and who or what got you started?
Yeah, it's always a funny question because I've always been really interested in investing since I was very young. I remember very distinctly going to my mom and being like, Mom, and I had this little pamphlet from our bank and I was obsessed with CDs. When I was probably like 8 or 9 or something, and I was like, Mom, like you don't understand. Like you basically give your money to someone, they can borrow it, use their money, and then you get a return on it. And except I obviously didn't have much money to my name. So I was trying to pitch a deal with my mom that maybe I could borrow like $5,000 from them. And then I would keep the returns and then they could have the $5,000 back. Obviously they didn't let that happen. And even CD rates weren't great at that time. So that's the first investment I wanted to make. And then when I was older, I didn't have like an investing account yet because I was not of age, but my dad actually bought the Snapchat when they IPO'd as like a teaching experience and stuff. And that was fun because I think shortly after we bought it, it just tanked. So that was the first investment I ever got to like see or kind of like be a part of just absolutely crashed, which is, it's a good teaching. And then after that, once I was old enough to get like investing, a brokerage account or anything, I've always just been very obsessed with like learning about investing and learning about wealth creation and the whole space. I would read and watch videos and read books. I've just always been really obsessed with it. And so I was a great little investor and probably put all my money into some S&P 500, things that tracked that. And so that was kind of my first actual investments. Still have it in there, which is great. But then from there, I've kind of been able to go on, actually invest into more crypto and other different assets and going from there. So, yeah.
So cool. And how and why did you get into your space? Like, what do you think was really driving this interest in such a young age into personal finance?
I don't know. I think we've always talked about it as a family, but I just have always been really interested in money and wealth and what I'm studying right now currently in school. And from there, I just kind of grew. I was really interested in just straight normal finance. And then even over the pandemic and stuff, being able to start investing into crypto assets because I thought it was a really interesting asset class. And so I've always been kind of interested in both sides of the coin. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little today, how I've had my Undressing Finance podcast, where we just talk more about, finance and also a little bit of crypto. And then from there, all the project we've been working on with CG Pantheon, it's more in the NFT space. And on the other hand, I'm also the first female president of my student investment fund at my university and being able to kind of lead some students with managing a whole lot of money there, which has been really exciting.
I love that. I would love to dive into all of that. The question I have next for you is like what role you play in the wealth space and why is it important? And I think that's a great opportunity to dive into each of those things, especially being the first woman running the investment club. I'm curious how much you're managing and how did that come to be?
Yeah. I think at their peak of last year, 2 years ago, was upwards of like $750,000, which is really exciting. And being able to lead the space. I've always been someone who I'll read something about investing and I'll get really excited and want to tell people about it. And so I've had like investing nights with friends. And from there, it kind of spearheaded the whole podcast. I was like, I love talking to people about money and investing and how they can grow their wealth and kind of be, successful financially in the future. And so that's why I started the podcast and be able to talk to some incredible professionals in the space. And then I was like, wow, these people are really amazing. Like I wish I could kind of be able to bring them together in some way. And then on the other hand, I'm kind of in the NFT space. I'm like, well, it'd be kind of cool if we could use NFT, some sort of NFT technology to be able to do that. And that's where the NFT collection kind of came out of. The NFT collection is called CG Pantheon. And what it is bringing the 1,000 most innovative individuals in finance, Web3, and fintech together. And we made like one-of-one portrait art for each person in our Genesis collection, which was 100 goddesses and 100 gods. And so being like the first female president, I've always been super passionate about bringing women to the space and bringing them to the table. But then on the other hand, really passionate about having everyone have a voice. And that's why we did like 100 men, 100 women, because I think when we all come together to be able to collaborate, it's really where the magic happens. And so I think all of the things I'm kind of involved in are really close, really hand in hand with wanting to teach others about, Web3, teach others about investing, and really being able to have this whole collaborative experience. Because I really think that's kind of what we're going to be able to drive like Web3 growth. So yeah.
So awesome. And tell me more about what you think is the most exciting thing you've learned that you would want others to know, especially as you've dove into your own personal finance journey and educating others.
Yeah, I think just in general, like to me, it's exciting. Maybe it's not everyone's exciting, but I think just the idea that like wealth creation takes a lot of time. Just in general, we've kind of been this crazy time with Web3. You can put like $5 in a random coin and it's worth 800 the next day. But I think that exuberance is a little bit risky and can be create a lot of FOMO and stuff. But I think in general, just knowing that wealth creation takes time. And I think we talked about this a little bit before we even hopped on this recording, but just with crypto and with all these crazy assets, just making sure that like you're not putting all your wealth and all of your life savings into one area, because like we've seen these crazy hacks, it can just go out the window, and that can be pretty detrimental. And so just making sure like you're diversifying your assets and all that stuff, but really enjoying like learning along the way. Like crypto and stuff is just, you can drink basically out of a fire hose, but I think the investing part is like where you learn. Like when you have money in different places, that's where you really be able to learn about different experience and stuff. And so I think if you're ready for the roller coaster, get into it. I think it's a really exciting asset, but like the diversification, I think it's something that definitely excites me and probably should excite everyone.
And is there a person or a company or maybe even a project that inspires you in the space right now, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to be amongst like some of the most amazing people in the space with this whole collection and kind of bringing everyone together in the space. So it was definitely hard to choose one. Anyone that I am inspired by is actually in my collection. But one person who I really wanted to highlight, her name's Tara Anderson, and she's with Elliptic. And she is someone that is really technical, and she's pretty brilliant. But she has an amazing ability to communicate some of these higher level topics to people who aren't as technical, but really want to learn about how these things work. So checking out her, I was looking at her profile before this, and she actually just got announced to the LinkedIn Web3 Creator Program, which is super interesting and stuff. So that's someone, Tara Anderson, is something that I've always liked to be able to get some resources from. And then when it comes to other things I take my resources from, actually there's a podcast called Overpriced JPEGs by Carly Riley. And she is someone that I've always listened to, that it just keeps me up to date on like what's happening in NFT space, because it's crazy. NFT space is just wild all over the place. I love her point of view. I think it's very real. I think it's very down to earth. I think sometimes we can say like crazy things are going to be happening with these like automated like 10K profile pics collection that don't have much of a future. And so I think she's someone that's like, no, like let's actually kind of dive into some of the technology, some like the real use case kind of next. And so I thought someone that I really enjoyed. And then on the other hand, I've always really enjoyed reading some of the reports by the Anderson Horowitz. I probably said that wrong, but they come out with some really cool reports about kind of the macro of what's going on in Web3. And so it's interesting to see how things are growing and how things are going like that. And so I guess those are kind of three people that I really like to look for some resources in the space.
Those are great resources. We'll definitely link them all in the transcript. And thank you for sharing. And what advice would you give to somebody getting started? So I think, based off your own journey, like what advice would you take as like step one?
Yeah, I think step one is just open like a crypto wallet and figure out how to get money into the crypto wallet. Even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just like $20, because I think it really helps from there to go on to be able to read more about things and talk to people. I think just doing that really hands-on, like figuring out how to do it, because it's a little bit clunky if you've never done it before. And then from there, just everything makes a little bit more sense when you go to read. So I think from there, just going on and kind of going through the rabbit hole of Investopedia and reading people's reports, reading people's things is really interesting. And then from there, just talking to people. And a little bit of a hot take is that everyone's really new to the space right now. So no one really knows everything. Even if they seem like they know everything, everyone's still learning. And so I think just kind of keeping that open mind, just like if you don't know what's going on, like I'm sure the next person doesn't know a lot as well. Everyone is just really, really new to the space because this thing is just emerging. And so keeping that, even though there's like crazy jargon and crazy words that people use, like don't let that discourage you, and just kind of keep an open mind.
Such great advice. And is there anything else we should know? How can we keep in touch with you personally? How can we follow along on your podcast and all the great things that you're creating in the space, including this new NFT collection?
Yeah, so you can follow me on my LinkedIn at Lindsay Rosenthal. My podcast is Undressing Finance, and the NFT collection / community is called CG Pantheon. The CG is because we did like crypto goddesses and crypto gods. That's where the CG came from. But welcome to follow all the CG Pantheon on Twitter, and then me on LinkedIn, and then Undressing Finance is also on LinkedIn and on Spotify. So welcome to follow me on all those and stuff. We're always putting out content with amazing people in the space and just an amazing community if you want to be a part of it, or all just kind of follow us along.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining and sharing all of this, and really for being a leader in the space, especially at a time when you're in the midst of college, finalizing everything that you've got going on there, and still being an incredible educator and role model in the space. So appreciate having you on here today, and looking forward to staying in touch on all the things that you're building.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.